We start with the latest on the coronavirus situation here in Japan. Health authorities in Tokyo confirmed fewer than 300 new infections in the capital on Monday. The daily tally came in below 500 cases for the 9th day in a row. Tokyo and 9 other prefectures are under a state of emergency in effect through March 7th. Across Japan, nearly 1,000 new cases were reported on Monday, with 72 deaths. 658 people are currently in serious condition. Japan is preparing to roll out its vaccine program after the government gave the green light to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine on Sunday.
We hope to start vaccinating medical workers on Wednesday. We'll continue to do our best to deliver safe and effective vaccines to the public across the country as soon as possible.
Pfizer is contracted to supply enough doses for 72 million people by the end of the year. Medical workers are first in line, followed by the elderly. A village in central Japan has started accepting applications from senior citizens for the vaccine.
I am 68 years old and I have 2 underlying conditions, high blood pressure and apnea syndrome. That's why I want to get vaccine as soon as possible.
Village officials plan to send vaccination vouchers to more than 500 people aged 65 or older next month. Health Ministry officials decided to urge people aged 16 and over to get vaccinated, but they plan to advise pregnant women to consult with their doctors and make their own decisions because of the lack of clinical test data on the possible effects on unborn children. The officials also decided to ask local governments to observe people's conditions for at least 15 minutes after inoculation for possible severe reactions. Those who've shown serious allergic symptoms in the past will be observed for 30 minutes. Pfizer reported that about 1 out of 200,000 jabs had triggered a severe reaction as of January 18th. Prefectural governors convened a special task force to ensure a smooth process. They say they're laying the groundwork for an information network to discuss challenges and successes.
I hope we can share our best practices and cooperate with each other to do whatever we can systematically.
The task force says it'll survey prefectures to find out what issues crop up at the municipal level and then share solutions. The South Korean government has announced it'll begin coronavirus vaccinations on February 26th with the vaccine developed by British pharmaceutical firm AstraZeneca and Oxford University. The government said on Monday that the first doses will go to more than 270,000 hospital inpatients, nursing home residents, and medical workers, all under 65. Officials have initially excluded people aged 65 and older because of limited data on the vaccine's efficacy for the elderly. They said they'll consider vaccinating seniors after gathering more data. South Korea's government has secured enough doses for 56 million people, more than the country's population, through contracts with companies including AstraZeneca and U.S. firm Pfizer. The government plans to achieve herd immunity by inoculating more than 70% of the population by November. A WHO investigator who was part of the team exploring the origin of the coronavirus in Wuhan says China provided only summarized data, telling NHK more details will be needed going forward. Dominic Dwyer, an Australian infectious disease expert, says the team was interested in the first 174 patients reported in the city in December 2019.
They did provide the total information, but we were interested in going in deeper into that data. So they didn't supply that during this 4-week period, which is actually a very short period of time to do an investigation.
He adds that pressure from Chinese authorities may have led to people being overly sensitive in giving the data to the team who wrapped up their visit last week. Dwyer said that if there was hidden data, there's no way of finding it without China disclosing it. The White House is also expressing concerns about the level of access the WHO team had. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. had deep concerns and questions about the process and how the team's findings were communicated. He said the report must be free from intervention or alteration by Beijing. Data from Johns Hopkins University indicates more than 108 million cases have been confirmed across the world. Over 2.4 million people have died. Protests in Myanmar show no sign of abating 2 weeks after the military overthrew Aung San Suu Kyi's government and detained her. Her lawyer says she'll remain in custody until Wednesday, 2 days longer than initially expected. Aung San Suu Kyi has been confined to her home in the capital Naypyidaw since the coup. The military says she illegally imported handheld radios and used them without permission. Her lawyer says the allegations are baseless and do not justify her detention. A hearing on the charges will reportedly be held by video conference rather than in court. Meanwhile, protesters took to the streets for a 10th consecutive day on Monday. Demonstrators in the largest city of Yangon chanted slogans against the military's power grab and demanded the release of Aung San Suu Kyi and other officials. The army is cracking down on the protesters. Armored vehicles have been deployed in Yangon and other major cities. Ambassadors from the United States, Britain, and other Western countries issued a joint statement on Sunday calling on Myanmar's security forces to refrain from violence against demonstrators and civilians. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the military authorities to allow the UN Special Envoy for Myanmar to visit the country. The first new cases of Ebola in Guinea in 5 years have been confirmed. The World Health Organization says 3 people have died of it in the West African country. Health authorities there have declared a fresh outbreak of the disease. The WHO's Regional Office for Africa reported on Sunday that a nurse died from Ebola last month. Of those who attended her funeral, 6 complained of symptoms and 2 of them died. During a period of about 2 years through early 2016, Guinea and its neighbors Liberia and Sierra Leone experienced an Ebola outbreak that killed more than 11,000 people. Officials in the WHO office expressed concern about the resurgence and said they've begun working to help Guinea secure vaccines and step up testing and treatment. The WHO is calling on neighboring countries to boost testing preparedness in their border areas. A United Nations panel has accused North Korea of using illicit ship-to-ship transfers to break limits on fuel imports. It says the country is bringing in much bigger volumes than a cap set by the UN. NHK has obtained the latest report by the UN Security Council's panel of experts monitoring sanctions on Pyongyang. It says that between January and September last year, the North received over 120 tanker deliveries following ship-to-ship transfers of products like gasoline or kerosene. It estimates the total amount could be about 4.4 million barrels. That's around 9 times the annual ceiling. The experts highlighted incidents in which the North allegedly used the identification number of a Panamanian-registered tanker that had already been scrapped. They're calling on governments around the world to manage shipping properly. Japan and the United States have been conducting surveillance of North Korean ship-to-ship transfers from the sea and air, but China and Russia say there's not enough evidence of illegal activity. Back to Japan, where people in the northeast are recovering from a magnitude 7.3 earthquake, which hit the region on Saturday night. Their efforts were slowed by heavy rain on Monday. The jolt damaged nearly 1,600 houses in Fukushima and Miyagi prefectures. Over 150 people were reported injured, but there were no known fatalities. The quake brought back memories of the massive temblor that struck the same region nearly a decade ago.
Saturday's quake felt bigger than the one 10 years ago. It looks as if I have to build a new house this time.
The quake cut water supplies to some areas. Efforts to restore it are underway. This house in Miyagi Prefecture got its water back at midday on Monday. The government expects water service to resume in all affected areas in about a week. The region's transportation has also begun to return to normal. The East Japan Railway Company announced the Tohoku Shinkansen bullet train will partially resume operation on Tuesday. But service between Nasu Shiobara to Ichinoseki will remain suspended and will return to full operation in about 10 days. Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide says officials have begun inspecting the areas to obtain accurate information.
The government will work closely with local authorities and relevant institutions to provide support so that people can return to their normal lives as soon as possible.
Authorities fear the heavy rain raised the threat of landslides in the region. They warned residents to remain on the alert and keep away from areas with a high risk of mudslides. A rapidly developing storm is expected to pound northern Japan with potentially the worst blizzard conditions in years. Our meteorologist Sayaka Mori has the details.
Hello there. Monday was the wettest day of the year for many places of Japan, and the system which caused the heavy rain will likely become the worst blizzard maker in years for northern Japan. It has brought nearly 90 millimeters of rain in 3 hours in Iwaki, which was hit by a massive earthquake last Saturday. More rain is now pounding portions of Hokuriku, and as the system pulls away, and it'll likely drag very frigid air. Heavy snow will likely pound northern Japan. And as you can see, this pressure gradient, it's going to be very windy. Winds are going to be as high as 160 kilometers per hour. The combination could cause whiteout conditions. Blizzard conditions could cause near zero visibility. Be careful. We might see nearly 2 meters of snowfall into the next 72 hours for parts of the Hokuriku region. Be careful of the dangerous conditions for the next several days. Sapporo will see a spell of snowy weather for the rest of the week. Sendai will see low temperatures on Wednesday and Thursday. Same goes for Fukushima, but Tokyo will remain on the double digits for warm weather for the next couple of days. Meanwhile, very massive winter storm is pounding many places of the United States. Take a look at this footage. The massive winter storm is causing dangerous road conditions, downed trees and power lines across the United States. A huge number of homes and businesses are without power. According to the Weather Service, over 150 million Americans were under ice or winter weather advisories as of early Monday. Frigid weather will continue to blanket many places of the U.S., including the southern plains. Temperatures are going to be below zero for many places. Minus 11 in Oklahoma City. Snow is expected on Tuesday as well. That's it for me. Stay warm.
Myanmar's coup leader says he will try to handle the mass protests against the overthrow, as he put it, softly, but warned that effective action would be taken against those he said were harming Myanmar. Israel's biggest health provider has reported a 94% drop in symptomatic coronavirus cases among people who have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The findings also suggest that inoculation is over 90% effective against serious illness. New quarantine restrictions have come into effect in the UK, with people arriving at airports having to pay for 10-day stays in hotels. The red list of 33 countries includes Portugal, Brazil and South Africa. And the former Nigerian Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has been confirmed as the new head of the World Trade Organization, the first woman and the first African to hold the job.